Hello, everyone. I am Jalon Strong, the Essential Millennial Realtor of Dreams to Keys Realty. Welcome to our YouTube channel. While you're here, please make sure to like the live, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, clicking the all option so that you don't miss any content or anytime we go live on this channel. Feel free to find us at the link in the description box as well, which is moving about at the bottom of the screen. It is beacons.ai/Jalon Strong. You can find several links in that link, and one we're going to talk about in just a moment. The first thing we talk about when it comes to these lives is the link in the bio highlight of the week. You can find this link, it's the same link I just mentioned, in the description box and moving about at the bottom of the screen. One of the tabs in that link is Down Payment Connect. Down Payment Connect is an option for you to search for down payment assistance programs in your area for the home that you would like to purchase. If you're interested in knowing about down payment assistance programs that are available to you for the type of property that you're looking to purchase, feel free to go to the link in the bio or the link in the description box, which again is beacons.ai/Jalon Strong, where you can click the Down Payment Connect tab and get connected to their site immediately. From there, you fill out different fields about yourself and the property that you're looking for, and then it will tell you how many programs are available in your area. From there, it will give you the details of those programs, and you can use that information to assist in discussions with your lender should you need financing to prepare to buy the home of your dreams or just your next home. So if that sounds like something of interest to you, make sure that you go to the link in the bio and click Down Payment Connect right now or at your earliest convenience. Next, I'm going to talk about the business that I created for a separate industry. So I've experienced my own journey with alopecia. And because of that, I, of course, went to physicians, dermatologists to seek out ways to improve my crown because the area of most concern with my alopecia was my crown. And it got to a point where I wasn't quite as comfortable wearing out my natural hair like I am wearing it now. And I also couldn't pull on that area as much to have certain protective styles. So braids weren't really a good option. And of course, braiding is a part of some other styles. So I felt limited in what I could do, and I just didn't feel as comfortable. I tried the methods that were proposed to me by my physicians and dermatologists. And essentially, what I learned from them or from what they wanted me to do is that I was going to end up on lifelong oral medication for alopecia, which was not my goal. I didn't want to be on something for the rest of my life for alopecia treatment. And I felt that some of the information I was receiving just wasn't right, and it did not make sense for me long term. One of the medications that I was advised to take over the counter was a topical foam of minoxidil, and that's said to be the most sensitive form of it to be applied topically. Well, even with the most sensitive form, I had a systemic reaction. So if you could think of how I was feeling, I was quite frustrated at that point and almost felt like I was out of options. And of course, with the physicians and dermatologists advising me, they wanted me to try other things, again, being more long term with no end in sight oral medication. And I decided that didn't make sense for me. And as a healthcare professional and a pharmacist, I decided it's best that I work on something that I'm comfortable with for a topical application. I wanted something I didn't have to take every day, and I wanted something that I could customize to what I felt my needs were. And that's essentially what I did. I came up with a formula over time to have a hair oil, a blend of essential oils that would not only help soothe the irritation in my scalp, but also promote hair growth. And that's what I did. I found it, I created it, I replicated it, and I used it. And then I noticed that family and friends would ask me about it. And it got to the point where I was even asked to produce 1 and 4 ounce bottles. And at that point, I knew this was a business. So that's how Crown First Lady got started. And the frontier product is the First Lady Scalp Oil, which is available in 1 and 4 ounce bottles. The 1 ounce bottle, of course, is more of a sample. And then the 4 ounce bottle you can use for a more longer period of time. I will show you one of our 4 ounce bottles. So here you can see First Lady Scalp Oil. And this bottle is a 4 ounce bottle. It is for purchase right now at the website on the screen, crownfirstlady.net. On this bottle, you will get the ingredients, directions, warning, as well as the expiration date and the website when you're ready to repurchase. So feel free to go to the website and purchase your bottle if you feel like you know someone that has such a journey or is in a journey like this where they're a bit frustrated with the recommendations they're receiving from physicians, or even if they're at a state where they're not quite ready to even talk to someone about it, they can be a potential customer of ours. And I would suggest you share, if you're feeling that comfortable, share with those that you know would be of interest or could possibly benefit from this scalp oil. It works for me. I'm back to wearing my natural hair out, which I've been doing for quite a bit of time now since I've made these changes. But I would love to see your support, and I hope that you would feel comfortable sharing the website and reviews on our site. And I'm so grateful that we've also shipped out some orders already. So we would love to have more orders. We're ready to receive more orders. And we look forward to hearing good things and feedback about the product. Now let's get into why you're here. So this is we're going to talk about the market data for Dekalb County. I did a previous live today on Gwinnett County, and as you may already know, I cover the counties of Gwinnett and Dekalb County as a realtor. So that's why I try to prioritize these counties when we review market data. And that is why we are now covering Dekalb County for this live. We are going to continue with the same zip code that we had for the previous live. And I'm going to share my screen with the information that we're going to discuss. I'm going to be toggling back and forth from the data we're reviewing for April 2025. And I'm going to also be looking at March 2025 to bring up any points of changes or differences that could be an indicator of positive or consideration for either the buyer or seller's end. So it looks like everyone can see what I can see. If you have any questions, comments, concerns while I'm going through this data, please make sure to leave it in the comment section. I will stop periodically to just check for any comments or questions, and I will answer them appropriately. Even if you feel like you're watching this on the replay and you have some questions or comments, make sure to leave them in the comment section and we will respond to them when we see them as appropriate. If you have something that you feel is kind of confidential, it may be best to schedule a consultation with me so you can talk with me about that private matter or your private situation in a more confidential setting. And for that, you can go to the link in the bio or the link in the description box, which is again, beacons.ai/Jalon Strong. It is also at the bottom of the screen. So let's get started. we're going to talk about the zip code of 30058, which is in Dekalb County and includes the city of Lithonia. This is data from FastStats, which is a production or an update that is complimentary from First Multiple Listing Service, which is an FMLS that I have access to as a realtor here. Now, we start as we always do with residential detached. If you have seen any of my previous lives, including the live that I did just today on Gwinnett County, I'm not going to break up all of the categories as I usually would. I'm going to discuss them briefly as far as the meanings of the categories, but feel free to check out any previous lives to get a more deeper understanding where I spend a little bit more time on what the metrics mean. Let's get started. For residential detached, again, for the zip code of 30058, looking at the metric of new listings for April 2024, it was 96. For April 2025, it was 82. That showed a decrease of about 15%. Again, this is new listings, so that's properties just coming on the market in those months. And it looks like it was a decrease. Now, looking at March 2025, it was 77 for new listings. So from March to April 2025, we see an increase in new listings, which is a good sign if you're more options. And new listings gives the indication of more options. Pending sales for April 2024 is 60. For April 2025 is 56, which is a decrease of about 7% in pending sales. Pending sales are those sales that have an executed contract or those executed contracts that have not quite made it to the closing table. So that gives us an indication of how the market is moving, though it is not quite a closed sale. Now for March 2025, for pending sales, it was 45. So we went from 45 to 56, again, another increase. So we have more pending sales in April 2025 than we did back in March. For closed sales, which are those that actually were sold properties, this is looking at April 2024, where it was 42 closed sales. And for April 2025, it was 45, which shows an increase of 7.1% in closed sales. So that's our first increase looking at the months of April. But let's look at March 2025 for closed sales. It was 42. So we went from 42 to 45, which is identical to what we see looking at the April months. Again, another increase from March to April 2025. Now, days on market until sale. For April 2024, it was 39. For April 2025, it was 64, which shows an increase of 64.1%. Now, this is where you typically don't want to see this number increase, especially if you are a seller, because having more days on market until sale means that you potentially can have your home listed for sale on the market in this area for a much longer time. And here we're seeing that we have crossed the 2-month time frame, which for a seller may be a time of reconsideration and financial planning, because you need to make sure that you are able to withstand the time it could take for your home being listed on the market until it is sold, especially if you're someone who is also looking to purchase another property once the property that you currently have sells. If you don't want to be strapped too thin or have your finances stretched too much, then you have to plan for that. And this is an indicator that you, as a seller in this market at this time, could need more planning financially to withstand the time it could take for your home to sell, as it looks like it's crossing the 2-month time frame. And back in March 2025, it was 62 days on market. So we've increased by 2 days. So it's taking much longer of a time for homes in this market to sell for residential detached properties. Now looking at median sales price, average sales price, and percent of list price received all have asterisks, not just for residential detached, but also when we talk about residential attached. Those asterisks are an indicator that there are some things that we're not taking into consideration with these numbers or these metrics. Some of those things include sellers' concessions and down payment assistance. So those things are not factored into the numbers that you see for those 3 categories. For median sales price for April 2024, it was $272,450. For April 2025, it was $256,000, which showed a decrease of 6% for median sales price. Median sales price is the middle point of all the sales prices in that time frame. For March 2025, the median sales price was $287,500. From that, we went to $256,000. So that is a bit of a drop, which could make that advantageous if you are a buyer, so that you know that you may be able to afford more of a home, especially if you don't want to use up your total pre-approval amount from financing and you want to kind of conserve some of that or have a lower, let's say, monthly payment for your mortgage. If you are a seller, this could be an okay sign. It depends on how marketable your property is and how much you would desire to achieve in a sale. And if your property is listed correctly, then again, this is the median sales price. It's just the middle point. So there are prices above and below, but you want to make sure that your property is listed correctly for where it fares in the market, and make sure that you're getting what you need in that sale so that you're not ending in debt based on where the market currently is. So it is a decision that you have to make as a seller and discuss with your representative, be it your realtor, real estate agent, or real estate broker representing you on the seller side if you're choosing to sell at this time. The average sales price for April 2024 was $265,686. For April 2025, it was $278,188, showing an increase of about 5% in average sales price. Average sales price is when you have all the sales prices and divide that by the number of sales prices that there were for the time periods that we're evaluating or reviewing. So we see that there's an increase in average sales price. Now let's look at March 2025. For the average sales price, it was $295,447. So we went from that to $278,188, which is another decline from March to April 2025 in sales price. So that again could be advantageous for the buyer and a point of consideration for the seller. Now, percent of list price received for April 2024 was 99.8%. For April 2025, it was 98.8%, showing a decrease of 1%. For this value, we look to see the percentage be as close to 100% as possible, given an indicator of a theoretical list price and sales price being correct. So the thought behind that is if the home is listed properly, it should sell at that price, theoretically. Again, this category has an asterisk, so there are some things that were not considered, such as seller concessions and down payment assistance. Overall, both numbers are quite close to 100%, especially if you're rounding, because for April 2024, that's 100 if you round up, and for April 2025, it's 99 if you round up. Now let's look at March 2025. The percent of list price received was 99.8 back then. So we did see a bit of a drop when we moved to April 2025. But again, all numbers are quite high in the 90s and close to 100%. Not much to take away from that. The inventory of homes for sale for April 2024 was 140. For April 2025, it was 200, which showed an increase of about 43%. Inventory of homes for sale is not just the new listings, but the properties that have not previously sold that are still on the market. And this is showing that we have more homes for sale for residential detached properties in this zip code than we did last year in the month of April. For March 2025, the inventory of homes for sale was 202. So we dropped by about 2 homes, not much difference between March and April of 2005, but there is an increase looking at the April months. So we have more inventory on the market in the residential detached category for sale looking at this data. That is a potentially good indicator for a buyer, meaning that you have more options to choose from theoretically. That could also, on the flip side, be more of a disadvantage. The more properties that you have a disadvantage for sellers, because the more property that you have for sale on the market means that you have more competition theoretically. However, there are ways that property should be evaluated by the homes that are for sale that are comparable or comparable to them in a closer vicinity. So that's a theoretical perspective to take from this data. Month supply of inventory for April 2024 is or was 3.3. For April 2025, it was 4.3, showing a percent increase of 30.3%. This is telling us how many months for all of the inventory on the market at these times that this inventory would sell. So, it would have taken a little bit over 3 months back in 2024, but for 2025, it is going to take or has taken or would take more than 4 months. Now, looking at March 2025, the value here was 4.4. So we dropped slightly for the month supply of inventory. This metric is something, again, that kind of reflects with the inventory of homes for sale. And it gives us the indicator of possibly why the days on market until sale has extended the way it has. So we have more properties in this category of residential detached on the market, which may mean that could be a reason as to why the days on market until sale are extending, because when you have more out there, more competition, and that prolongs some homes from being purchased because the buyers have other options, possibly theoretically, of similar homes, if that makes sense. Now let's pause. I'm going to see if there are any questions or comments. If you have any, this is another reminder to put them in the comment section. We will respond when we see them. And if it's something confidential or personal to you, please use the link in the bio or the link in the description, which is beacons.ai/JaLonStrong, to schedule a consultation where you can talk with me one-on-one and we can discuss your personal matter or your confidential situation related to your home buying or home selling experience. Also, if you are looking to rent to own, I can help to assist with your experience there as well, whether I represent you as your realtor or I refer you to someone else that can help you in your area or for the services that you need. Let's go back to the data, looking at year to date, which is, as it says, from the beginning of the years that we're looking at through the month of April. So year-to-date data for new listings through April 2024 was 278. Through April 2025, it was 312, showing an increase of about 12%. So there were more new listings year-to-date for this year than the previous year. Pending sales year-to-date through April 2024 was 189, and it was 180 for year-to-date through April 2025, which is a decrease of about 5%. Number-wise, that's not much of a difference. And again, pending sales are not closed transactions. There is an executed contract, but we have not quite made it to the closing table. And there's a lot that can affect why an executed contract does not close in a certain time frame. Some of these executed contracts might close in the next month. There could be a number of reasons. So pending sales, pretty similar here in my opinion. Now for closed sales year to date through April 2024, it was 157. Through April 2025, it was 152. A decrease of 3.2%. Again, number-wise, that's a difference of 5 closed sales. And closed sales in this market, as we're seeing the trend of the market, it appears that the market has, though number-wise compared to what we saw in Gwinnett County, when we reviewed Gwinnett County with that specific zip code, it had Gwinnett and Fulton in it. So these numbers were much higher when we looked at the month-to-month. And here we're seeing a little bit of a different picture. So that, again, this is an indicator of when you are looking to buy or sell, try to get some numbers from your expert, such as your real estate agent, realtor, or real estate broker, about what the market is saying right now and what it has said previously, year to date, month to month, because here we're seeing a bit of a different picture than we saw with the previous zip code we reviewed in the live for Gwinnett County. So if you haven't reviewed that, or if you weren't there for that, make sure that you go to that video and see what I mean, because here the picture is quite different than it was there. And it matters the zip code, it matters what's going on in that county, in that area. So closed sales, not much difference. Pending sales, not much difference. New listings have increased. Days on market until sale year to date through April 2024 was 42 and 61 through April 2025, which showed an increase of 45.2%. Now, it's slightly lower than we saw just month to month, but year to date, we're still over the 2-month time frame. And last year, looking at the same time frame, year to date, it was about a month and a half. Now we're over the 2-month time frame. We have new listings, we have inventory, but they're not selling as fast at this time and at the time last year. So it seems like this market is a bit slower, than we saw reviewing the previous market when we reviewed the data for Gwinnett County today. So this could be advantageous for a buyer if you need time, if you need certain considerations, if you want to have more contingencies, that could be an advantageous time, because with the way the market based on this data looks for a seller, the seller has to be prepared to kind of wait it out just a bit longer. And if you're looking for a reference or a comparison, please check out the video that we just did on the live for Gwinnett County, because it's kind of night and day on some things or on how the market is trending. So this is giving more of leaning toward a buyer's market, because the inventory is kind of great. So you want your buyer, if you're a seller, you want to show them the benefits of the property and the reasons why they should choose yours over another one. Of course, it's all up to them on what they want to make an offer on, and it's up to you as a seller what you are willing to accept. However, these days on market until sale this category is growing. And it's not just month to month, it's year to date that we've seen from 2024 to 2025. So that's leaning more on the buyers having more influence on this market at the time, which you may have referred to or heard it be referenced as a buyer's market. Now, let's get to median sales price. Asterisks still apply here. And for average sales price and percent of list price received. Year to date through April 2024, the median sales price was $270,000. Through April 2025, it was $275,500, which showed an increase of 2%. So we saw a decrease looking month to month. Year to date, we're seeing an increase. Not much of an increase, $5,500 to be exact here for the median sales price. Again, this is an asterisk metric, so there are some things that were not considered. And based on the trend of where the days on market until sale is going, I would not be surprised if there are some seller concessions going on in this market. Again, this metric does not reflect that because of the asterisk that we talked about. It's not taking into account seller concessions, down payment assistance, things of that nature. But also when we reviewed Gwinnett County, these price points or sales prices were quite different. So if you're not sure where you want to live in Georgia, you want to live adjacent to Atlanta, then these are some areas you might want to consider, but look at the sales prices. Again, these are median and average, but they give you an indication of price points where you could see yourself, where your pre-approval could take you. And they're quite different here as they were when we reviewed Gwinnett County in the previous live. So check both videos out to see what I mean. Now, for average sales price through April 2024, it was $273,213. Through April 2025, it was $290,777, which shows an increase of 6.4%. So there are increases going on, but they're much smaller compared to what we saw in the Gwinnett County Live. And again, these are asterisk metrics because they do not take certain things into consideration. And like I said earlier, I would not be surprised if seller concessions are going on in this zip code because of how prolonged the days on market until sale is becoming. Now, percent of list price received year to date through April 2024, we have 98.7%, and through April 2025, it was 99.1%, showing an increase of 0.4%. So we have a different trend than what we saw looking at month-to-month data, where the trend was downtrending by 1%. Year to date, we're seeing an upward trend of 0.4%. All numbers are quite close to 100%. Not much to take away from that. Again, this is an asterisk field, so there are certain things that we're not taking into consideration. And that is how we wrap up residential detached as far as the table. And we're going to later discuss the graphs at the bottom. But that is the table version of what we will discuss later on the graphs. I'm going to pause here and just make sure we don't have any questions or comments. Again, this is another reminder. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section right now, or even if you're checking out the replay. If you are someone who has a personal matter, a confidential matter that you want to discuss with me, please make sure that you schedule a free consultation from the link in the bio, which is also at the bottom of the screen. It says beacons.ai/Jalon Strong, and you can click the one that says Let's Talk on that tab to schedule the free consultation. Now let's continue on with residential attached properties, which an example of that would be your townhomes or condos if they are connected to another property, as the name suggests. Now we're going to go through these just like we did the residential detached metrics. For new listings for April 2024, it was 29. For April 2025, it was 26, showing a decrease of 10.3%. What you'll notice here, as you could have noticed from the Gwinnett County review, is that the residential attached category overall has much smaller numbers. So those percent changes are usually quite bigger than you would see for residential detached metrics. So the numbers are off. It's a decrease of 3 new listings. So that's not much difference to me number-wise. When we go back to March 2025, it was 23 for the new listings, and it's 26 here for April 2025. So it's actually an upward trend, just looking from March to April 2025. Now let's look at pending sales. For April 2024, it was 12. For April 2025, it was 9, showing a decrease of 25%. This is pending sales, which means there's an executed contract, but we have not reached the closing table, and sometimes we don't. Now, for March 2025, it was 14 for this category of pending sales. So we went from 14 to 9, which shows a decrease again in pending sales, not just month to month of the April 2024 to 2025, but also from March to April of 2025. Closed sales for April 2024 was 12. It was 16 for April 2025, which shows an increase of 33.3% in closed sales. So we made it to the closing table on this metric. For March 2025, for closed sales, it was 12. So we increased by 4 in closed sales from March to April of 2025. For days on market until sale for April 2024, it was 92. For April 2025, it was 89, showing a decrease of 3.3%. Days on market until sale is where we would like to see the decrease. We would like to see, especially if you're a seller, that the time it takes from the time a property is listed until the time it is sold is at least a month. A month, 30 days is a fair time frame. For many buyers, that's a good time frame for the financing to come through. But if it's longer than that, we start seeing more of the buyers being able to play ball a little bit differently than they would if the number was shorter than 30 days. So if we see numbers like we did in Gwinnett County, which I'm going to suggest you go check out Gwinnett County because they have some interesting metrics for both residential detached and residential attached here. So days on market until sale was quite different. And there are times where it looked like the investors, they could really do their thing, more so because of how short the days on market until sale was. And there's times where it seemed quite fair for buyers, where that typical 30-day time frame that some buyers might need for a home that they're looking to live in, you know, the financing piece to all close at the 30-day point is pretty fair. Again, if you're someone that requires financing, I've said this in other videos, if you're someone that requires financing, when you are approaching, especially if you're looking to buy a property and you cannot purchase it outright with your own money, you do not have, let's say, $280,000 to go buy a property that's $280,000. This is just a theory, hypothetical number. So if you don't have that, you would need financing, some type of financing. You might need down payment assistance, but you would need some financing to make that transaction close, right? When you are going through the process, do not avoid the consultations. Do not avoid consultations with any real estate expert, not the real estate agent, realtor, or broker, not the financing conversation with your lender. If you need to have a lawyer, if you're buying a property as an entity, do not avoid the consultation process. Why? Because most people want to just jump into show me a home, show me a home, show me a home. But the reality is, if you don't know when you're going in to see that home, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to offer up front, then you see the home and you customize it based on what your plan is already, because you should go into a property, in my opinion, knowing what you're pre-approved for, knowing the gist of what your non-negotiables are, your preferences are. Then you look at a home, you look at all that it comes with, what surrounds it, the neighborhood, the schools, whatever is important to you. And you assess whether or not this meets those things. And you have to know, in order to be strategic, in order to make sure your offer is seen in a timely manner and that it's competitive, you need to go into the showing or going into that property knowing where I see myself offer-wise and customize it based on what you see about that property. And I strongly encourage you to see the property in person. The pictures, nowadays we are living in a world of AI, and there are so many things that can be done to pictures. And I'm not saying that any particular person, agent, or real estate expert does things with pictures, but we have to be realistic about where we are in the world. You need to see the property, whether you're the investor, whether you're looking to live in it yourself, you should see the property. Look at it, open the doors, check the rooms, see it for yourself, because pictures can hide certain things. And there's ways that we now know, especially with AI, that pictures can be adjusted to show more of the benefits, where you need to see it all if you're going to be living in it, especially because you need to be prepared for if that means you need to have repairs. If in your offer, you need to have certain contingencies. If in your offer, you need to think about having certain experts come and view it within the due diligence period. You need to know all of that, and you need to be prepared prior to putting all this money, that especially if you're getting financing from somewhere else or someone else or another company upfront for you, and you haven't even seen the property. What I do not encourage my clients to do is to become house poor. I'm not looking to present anyone into the largest debt of their life potentially and then be house poor. So we make informed decisions over here at Dreams to Keys Realty. That's why we push education. That's why we talk about market data. That's why I'm passionate about it. You can hear it in my voice. And you have to be strategic. If you just want to fly into a home, see it, and buy it, I'm probably not going to be the best realtor for you, because I need to know that you know what you're doing and that you are content, happy, that you are informed when you say this is the offer you want to make on this particular property. Because 2-3 years down the line, I don't need you emailing me saying, this is one you told me I should do. No, ma'am. No, sir. We're not doing that. So make sure that you're informed. For all of my clients, I'm going to give you the information. You can choose what is important to you. I'm going to advise you if you are my client. You can make the final decision, but the advice will be there if I represent you. So keep that in mind. For median sales price for April 2024, it was $252,000. For April 2025, it was $279,200, which shows an increase of about 11% in the median sales price, which again is the middle number of all the sales prices. Now, let me go back up because I want to compare this number to, that's what I thought. The median sales price for the residential attached month to month is higher than the residential detached, just comparing the month to month. So that's something I just noted. I just took a mental note of it. It may not mean a whole lot because, again, this is the median sales price, but I always look to see what is the market favoring when it comes to property type. Is it favoring residential detached? Is it favoring residential attached? And of course, that's a broad category for both of those. But I just look, as a realtor, I'm thinking, when my clients come to me and say they want a certain type of property, and then we review where they are looking to live or where they would like to live, I need to know, to discuss with them up front, hey, based on the way this market has performed previously, it looks to favor this type of property type. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't find what you're looking for in it, but I just want you to know this is, what the market favors. And typically in my market areas, the residential attached numbers are quite small, as they are here. And it looks like for my market area, at least in the past, that it doesn't appear as advantageous for sellers when it's time to sell for residential attached. Again, that's based on history. Things can always change. But that's something as a realtor I'm looking at and I'm noting so that I can have those types of discussions with my clients. Now, this is information I'm providing to all of you as potential customers, but as a client, you get more detailed advice, information, and strategy. Now let's look at average sales price. Let me stop. I need to go to March. So we haven't really talked about March for days on market until sale and median sales price. So the days on market until sale for March was 63. So we have increased quite a bit. So we were much lower on days on market until sale. And these numbers can feel skewed because they're much smaller numbers to work with. So any one outlier could potentially throw off this metric, I would think. But from 63 to 89 is still a bit of a difference. And 89 is approaching 3 months, right at 3 months. So if you are a seller, or if you're someone who even is looking to buy in this market and looking to buy a residential attached property, but you know upfront that you have no intention of making this your forever home or even your forever zip code, look at these days on market until sale. And before you're ready to sell that home, consider the financing that you would need to have set up to withstand 3 months or more of your home being listed. If you're not looking to live in this home or in this zip code as your forever home, as your dream home, then consider that you may need 3 months or more once you are ready to sell based on this data. As far as financing saved, put away, to make sure that you aren't taking a financial hit when you are ready to sell your home in this market. So that's something that is a trend that I have seen historically when we reviewed residential attached categories for different zip codes. So keep that in mind if you are someone who's thinking of that. So we all have short-term goals of like buying and selling, but there are some long-term goals to consider. And if you are a buyer, think of that long-term, what that means, what that looks for you. Is that too much of a stretch? And are you willing to prepare yourself to undergo that type of saving and all of that? So just think of that. Median sales price. We talked about that, but I forgot to mention the March 2025 median sales price, which was $286,995. From that to what we see now for April 2025, it is a decrease. So median sales price decreasing can be a good sign for a buyer. Average sales price for April 2024 was $228.97. And for April 2025, it was $243,540. That showed an increase of about 7% in the average sales price. That number still is quite low compared to the median sales price. Now let's look at March 2025, where the average sales price was $247,489. Now this shows a decrease again when we look at both median and average sales prices for residential attached in this zip code. And this is the zip code of 30058, which includes Lithonia and Dekalb County. Percent of list price received for April 2024 was 97.7%. For April 2025 was 99.9%, which is an increase of 2.3%. Both of these numbers are not bad. Of course, 99.9 is much better. It's much closer to 100%. And these are very high numbers. So there's not a whole lot to take here. But what we can take is that we are seeing possibly, again, this is an asterisk field, but we are theoretically seeing the list prices being more accurate to what the value is expected to be, what a buyer is expected to pay, and sales price. Inventory of homes for sale for April 2024 was 52. For April 2025 was 71, showing a 36.5% increase in inventory. And that is mentioning not just new listings, but those homes that were previously on the market, listed on the market, and have not sold. For March 2025, that number was 69. So we have a slight bump when we get from 69 to 71. For month supply of inventory for April 2024, it was 3.8. For April 2025, it was 6.7, showing an increase of 76.3% month supply of inventory. For March 2025, it was 6.4. So we are steady climbing in the month supply of inventory, meaning it would take over 6 months, almost 7 months, to sell all of the inventory that is on the market at the time of closing of April 2025. So the inventory is there. The days on market are not favorable to sellers, but if you're a buyer, that could be advantageous for you in the short term. But I caution you to consider the long term. Should you not be buying or moving into a home that you would consider your forever home or your dream home. Because when you become the seller, then you might be faced with these numbers. So that's just a caution. Year-to-date data for the same residential attached category through April 2024 for new listings, it was 81, and it was 102 through April 2025, which showed a percent increase of 26%. So more new listings have been out there this year through April than last year. Pending sales year to date through April 2024 was 43, and it was 46 through April 2025, showing an increase of 7%. So we have more pending sales. Now that didn't reflect month to month looking at the April because we had lists, but we have year to date more pending sales. Closed sales through April 2024 was 38 and 42 through April 2025, showing an increase of 10.5%. So here, all positives. We're seeing more new listings, more pending sales, and more closed sales year to date. Days on market until sale through April 2024 was 70. Through April 2025 was 83, showing an increase of 18.6%. Now, once again, this is the value that if you're especially a seller, you do not want to see the percentage increase, the numbers increase. You would like to see this number decrease. Now, what we do see year to date is that we have not crossed or not quite at the 3-month time frame, but it's steadily increasing. And so that would be concerning if you're a seller or a seller's representative. Median sales price year to date through April 2024 was $252,000. Year to date through April 2025 was $274,900, showing an increase of 9.1%. This again is median sales price, which is the middle sales price of all the sales prices in that time frame. And we see that this value is less than it was for the month of April 2025. So if you're someone that is considering residential attached in this zip code of 30058, and let's say you have a pre-approval of $300,000, you could consider this zip code. Again, I would caution you, is this your forever home? Is this your forever zip code? Is this your forever area? Because if not, when you become a seller, be prepared to withstand what appears here to be at least or somewhere around a 3-month time frame. If not, as we see in the month supply of inventory, almost 7-month time frame to list your home and wait for it to be sold. All right. Now, average sales price year to date through April 2024 was $239,017. And then through April 2025, it was $249,252, which is an increase of 4.3%. So this number here is slightly higher than we saw for the month of April 2025. But again, the average is taking all those numbers in that time frame and dividing them by the numbers of sales prices that there were. And again, this is an asterisk field. Now, the last field or metric here for year to date is the percent of list price received. Through April 2024, it was 98.6%. Through April 2025, it was 99.1%, which showed an increase of 0.5%. Both numbers are close to 100%, and the percentage is getting closer to 100% as we see in this year than in the previous year. So with that, we have finished our tables for both residential attached and residential detached properties in this zip code. I'm going to pause and just see if we have any questions before I review the graphs. And the graphs are just an indicator of the things that we have covered in the tables, but it gives us some information about previous time frames. So we see median sales price, which is on a rolling 12-month calculation. I don't see any questions or comments, but again, please leave them there if you have any. And we see that this graph starts on both sides for January 2014 and extends through the information that we reviewed above. Starting on the left, we have the median sales price for residential detached properties, again with the rolling 12-month calculation, which represents the current month and the 11 months prior in a single data point. And if there's no activity during a month, that line extends to the next available data point. The green line that you see is the zip code we've been reviewing, 30058. The gray line is the all MLS data, and this, of course, is the first multiple listing service that I have access to as a realtor in the state of Georgia. Now, the green line starts on the graph to the left for residential detached underneath the $100,000 mark. It reaches that $100,000 mark at about January 2016, where the all MLS data at that time is reaching the $200,000 mark. We see that the all MLS data is doing a steady incline, which is also in line with what the zip code of 30058 is doing. And the lines both follow a similar trend in behavior, where the all MLS data reaches the $300,000 mark let's say about midpoint of 2021, so after the pandemic, and then that green line with the zip code of 30058 is reaching or has reached the $200,000 mark at that time. Both lines do an incline about in the same pattern, and the green line of 30058 stops on that incline about January 2023 and has a bit of movement at times, increases and ends the graph just under the $300,000 mark. The All MLS data stops its incline just about the same time frame, but a little bit over into 2023, takes a bit of a dip, but inclines slightly, ending the graph just under the $400,000 mark. So what we can take away from this is for residential detached, comparing this zip code to the full MLS data is that it fares in similar behavior with the MLS, but it stayed under the MLS by about $100,000. Now, again, that was median sales price, which is the middle point, and there are points above and several points above and below. So let's now look at the same type of data for the residential attached, starting again at January 2014, with the green line being the zip code of 30058, and the gray line being the all MLS, being that this represents the first multiple listing service here in Georgia, where I am a realtor. Now, looking at this graph to the right, the green line is, it appears not even close to, or not that close to the middle point between $0 and $100,000. So we could say it's somewhere close to $50,000 as the median sales price for residential attached back in January 2014, whereas the all MLS line starts about similarly, not quite the middle point between $100,000 and $200,000. And following that gray line, we see that it reaches the $200,000 mark on an incline at January 2018. At that same time, the green line of the zip code 30058 is approaching the $100,000 mark, but has not quite reached it. It does reach and pass it just before January 2019. And at that time, the gray line of the all MLS data it has crossed the $200,000 mark and just above that. Now we follow that gray line, the all MLS data, all the way to January 2022, where it is approaching and crosses the $300,000 mark in 2022. And from the time that we left the green line until 2022, it's been a lot of activity. We know we had the pandemic, so there's some hills and valleys going on with this green line. It does reach the $200,000 mark just before January 2022. It takes a bit of an incline, but levels off before reaching 2023, and then does a bit of a dip, a spike, and some more dips before ending the graph under the $300,000 mark, which should reference what we saw above. And the all MLS data, it steadily inclines, though not quite in the most diagonal fashion, but it does end the graph around the $350,000 mark. So what we can take from this graph is similar to the other graph for residential detached. The residential attached graph is showing that the zip code of 30058, it's staying below the all MLS median sales prices. It never at any point connects. So it looks like it would have or could have become connected closer in 2022, but it did not. And it looks like it started at a much lower point in January 2014. But needless to say, it looked a little bit more volatile than the residential detached graph. And the median sales price seemed a bit lower at the beginning and ending of the graph. So I'm going to stop sharing. I hope you all were able to understand and flow with me as I discuss these points. I hope that you can get a picture of what is going on based on the metrics and timeframes we discussed for this zip code in Dekalb County. And I also hope that you're able to reference not just this video, but also previous videos for Dekalb County and compare it also to videos that we've discussed on market data for Gwinnett County. If you are someone who is interested in living, let's say near the Atlanta, Georgia area, and you may not have a specific county in mind, consider Dekalb and Gwinnett counties, and also consider me as your realtor if you're looking for representation. And I'd be happy to discuss the services that I can provide and how I can best help you, even if you are someone who I may be able to refer to another real estate agent if you're looking for another service area or services that I am unable to provide to you. And I can do that by talking with you on the consultation period. You can also text the word referral, REFERRAL, to the business line 770-758-5641. We will contact you, connect with you, and get started on the referral process. If you know you want me to represent you, schedule that free consultation from the link that is moving about at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the description box here on YouTube, and it's in the link in the bio on all of our social media platforms or pages, such as Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Substack, and TikTok. And when you schedule that consultation, it is free. However, you need to make sure that you are attending the time that you scheduled so that you do not incur a $10 no-show fee. And you can talk with me in that free consultation period for up to 1 hour about your specific scenario, and I will discuss with you my services and how I can best help you if I am able to. Thank you all for joining this live. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope you're safe. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, even if you are watching this video on the replay. This is Jalon Strong, the Essential Millennial Realtor of Dreams to Keys Realty, signing off. And Dreams to Keys Realty is where your dreams turn into keys. I hope you all have a blessed day. I'll see you in the next live. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to all so that you can see any content that we post, that we upload, or anytime we go live on this channel. Everyone have a blessed day and weekend.